Hello guys, it's Kasim. How you doing? I hope everything is alright. I hope your week is okay. Um, so I wanted to talk about something interesting that I saw online and I was thinking about, and I wanted to share some thoughts with you. And I hope that it can add some value to the quality of your life. The question was, why are there so many celebrities which live in so much pain? And I'm sure you've seen it, right? You've seen a lot of people who are successful, yet they're struggling with drugs, yeah, they're struggling with alcohol problems, yeah, they're in and out of rehab, right? And and it's like, why? They're successful, they have everything. Why are they so unhappy? Why are they in so much pain? I wanted to talk about that. But before we get into that, guys, if you want to help get me to 1,000 subscribers by June, please can you like and subscribe to my channel? You would be an absolute legend. Thank you very, very, very much. Okay, cool. So let's go into this. So I wrote down some things here. So the first thing that I wrote down is that many successful people are driven by fear of not becoming successful, not inspiration of who they want to become. So I have a goal setting workshop, and in my goal setting workshop, I teach people that you want to be motivated by two things, right? Now, okay, let's go back firstly. Before I explain that, let's go back firstly. So when I first started studying success, I wanted to know one question. How can a person who started off with nothing, build an incredible life? Okay? How can you start off poor and become rich? How can you start off coming from a family of dysfunction and start your own family and have a really great family? How can you start off in foster care or being abused or being treated like shit and you become an amazing human being? That's what I wanted to pretty much know. Was that possible? And if it was possible, how do you do it? I eventually discovered that that is possible and somebody could do it. Here's a problem. I then encountered a huge problem, which was that there were a lot of people who had done it, who were successful, who were doing really well, but they were dickheads, but they were unhappy. So then the question became twofold. Number one, how do you become successful? Start off with nothing, achieve what you want. But the second question now was, how do you do that without ending up divorced, without ending up killing yourself when you get there, without ending up stepping on everybody to get there, and when you get there without being unhappy? So now I look for people who not only have started with nothing and built incredible lives, but are happy, but are doing really, really well, but are pleased with themselves. Now let's go back to the workshop. In my goal setting workshop, I now teach people that there are two aspects to life. There is what I call the science of achievement, right? The A to Z, I call it. Meaning that pretty much it doesn't matter where you start off. There's certain things that if you do them in a certain way, you'll become successful. It's a science, right? And on the other hand, the second part of life is what is called the art of living, right? And the art of living just basically means that what makes me happy is different to what makes you happy. What I find fulfilling is different to what you find fulfilling. How I dealt with my parents divorcing is different to how you might deal with your parents divorcing. When I am anxious and depressed, the way I deal with it is different to how you're going to deal with it, right? You might be a lot more sensitive than I am. I might be a lot more blasé and kind of power through militant way than you might be about problems. Does that make sense? And so when I coach people, one of the things that I share with them is in the goal setting workshop, you want to be fearful of who you don't want to become, and you want to be motivated by that, but you also want to be motivated by who it is that you want to become. Because if you are not careful and you are simply motivated by fear of failure, of who you don't want to become. I don't want to become like my parents. I don't want to become and live under my potential. If you're not careful, what's going to end up happening is, as you become successful, which is what I found, success basically amplifies everything. So if you're already in fear and you become successful, the fear simply gets amplified. You know, are worried about people stealing your money. You're worried about, does people want me for me or do they want me because of my success? Okay, you think you have problems with not finding friends. Imagine when you amplify that in success. Who are your friends? Everything just becomes worse, right? And so I teach people not only to be driven by what they don't want to become, but by also what they want to become. Meaning, do you want to become a good father? What kind of person do you want to become? What kind of contribution do you want to make to your community? What kind of role model do you want to become? So what I found is a lot of people who are unhappy with their life, who have what most of us would consider to be everything, their financial success, houses, they can travel, they can eat whatever they want, etc. They're mainly being driven by fear. And that fear, they don't even realize that that is what's been driving them. And here's a problem. When you've been driven by fear, you can't, it's really difficult to then switch over from fear to inspiration. All right? And here's the thing. When you're around something like enough, it becomes normal, it becomes familiar. So what most people don't understand is, as you move up in success, even though you've recognized that before you used to earn £1,800 a month, but now you're earning millions, because everyone around you is earning millions, it doesn't seem like a lot of money, because if you are earning millions, the next people up from you are earning hundreds of millions. So to you, you don't feel like you're doing very well, right? And so you feel like, hold on a minute, Kasim, you want me to stop, work on my character, work on who I am, go to therapy? Well, hold on a minute, but I'm not even doing very well, because look at those people who are earning 400K a year. And I'm only earning, sorry, not at 400K, 400 million a year, and I'm only earning 50 million a year. Does that kind of make sense? So it's very difficult to make the switch between being driven by fear and being driven by inspiration. Is a very difficult switch to make. The next thing that I wrote down here is, when you become successful, everyone tells you how well you're doing, right? And it is true. When imagine you started off with nothing, you've worked hard, you've made sacrifices, you've done everything. One of the main issues that you have is that people don't feel sympathy for people who are successful. So when you talk about how you're depressed, how you don't know what to do with your life, you don't know what to do with money, people just aren't sympathetic, because they're like, what the hell is your problem? Because the assumption that most people make is, if you have a lot of money, then the money is going to solve internal problems. But what people don't realize is, whilst money can solve external issues, meaning it can solve you having a house, it can allow you to travel, money cannot buy anything internally. Because to work on internally means stopping, having introspection, it means examining and reflecting on the decisions that you've made, which are not things that you can buy, right? And so a lot of people really, really, really struggle when they become successful, because number one, no one has sympathy for them, and all anyone ever sees is what they have, but not who they are. Which is why a lot of people who are successful really don't trust anybody. Because a lot of people, it's interesting, I was listening to somebody saying, oh my God, you're the first person who's asked, Emma Watson. Emma Watson was in an interview, and somebody asked her, how are you feeling? And somebody said to her, this is the first time anyone has ever asked me how I am feeling in an interview. This is Emma Watson. Imagine how many interviews she's had, right? It's that impactful that little people ask you how you are. And I mean, even in general life, I ask people all the time. People find it a bit of a shock when I say to them, how are you feeling, man? How actually is life? Is everything actually all right? Like, people find it like a shock, because they're like, well, what do you want from me? Well, why are you asking me? Right? Because people are just not used to people genuinely caring about them. I say to people all the time that how are you is no longer a question, it is a greeting today. So if you want to find out about how somebody actually is, you have to go further than asking them how they are, right? Because just people are just used, like how are you is a greeting now. And so I would share with you that one of the reasons why so many people are in pain is because people just don't really care about their pain, and people don't even pay any sympathy for them. And it's really, really difficult when you are constantly moving and everyone around you is constantly moving and doing well and pushing it, to want to stop, right? Which I'll get to in a second. But you don't want to stop to explore your feelings. You have no one around you who actually cares. I was saying to somebody that there is this thing where people say that if you want to find a relationship, you should stop and find out, figure out who you are first and then try to find a relationship. And I said to them, that's not true. part of it is true, but to actually find out about yourself requires other people. Because as you have interactions with other people, they're going to reflect things back at you, which you're like, whoa, right? You say this to a person, they completely take it the wrong way, and you find out, oh, the way in which you say things isn't taken very well by people. You say to somebody, you think that you're a good person, but somebody triggers you, and you all of a sudden go into a defensive mode and say something you didn't mean. Now you just find out something about you. So, in order to find out who you are as a person and to discover things about yourself, you need other people. It's part of the reason why people need to go to therapy in order to figure out about themselves, right? Because when you go to therapy, the therapist will ask you things that you've never really thought about. You say you're a good person, yet you have not spent a single cent of all the money that you have on charity. And you're like, oh, actually, I've never really thought about that before. You say that you're successful, but how do you define success? They will ask you. Is success loads of money? Is success having a family? Is success having a home? I don't know. How do you define it? And some people have never actually had anyone ask them this. Right? And here's the problem. When you are successful, you usually have an entourage, or you have people who are yes people. They just tell you what you want to hear. Right? There's an aura about successful people, and we treat them different to other people. And the issue that you've got with that is no one challenges you when you're doing very well. Very few people are going to say to you, what the fuck are you doing with your life? Why are you, like, when was the last time you went to therapy? When was the last time that you went and did nothing? Most of us don't have. When you're successful, you don't have people who are going to say that kind of stuff to you. The next thing that I briefly talked about earlier on is that people don't want to stop and ask questions. Be introspective. Reflect. One of the biggest fears that successful people have is, if I stop, then I'm going to get off the wave of success. Right? There is a certain wave. When you're doing very well, there's like a momentum, there's like a wave of success, opportunities, collaborations, you're doing all of these things. And here's the issue. Your biggest fear is, if I stop, then everything's going to stop. And technically speaking, that is true, right? If you stop collaborating and doing this and doing that, your opportunities are going to dry out. So for example, if you are somebody who creates music, or you're an artist, if you stop collaborating and putting out music, guess what? You won't be invited to talk shows. You're not going to be invited to promote products. You're not going to be invited to concerts, because you're not producing any music. So, just what I'm saying. So, technically, your opportunities do dry out, which is true. But obviously, in that, also it means that part of determining how well you're doing in life is you have to see how far you've come. And you can't see how far you've come unless you stop and you look back, right? And here's the thing. Sometimes, in order to be happy, you have to look at who you've become. Here's the issue. You can't look at who you've become unless you look back at who you've been. Do you understand? It's interesting. I was looking at people who involve themselves with infidelity. It's interesting because a lot of people who cheat on their partners, a lot of them are really good people, actually. Most people who cheat on their partners are good people. They've a lot of the time been faithful in their marriage, in their relationship. But what ends up happening is, like 15 years into the relationship, they'll go and have an affair or cheat on their partner. And you ask why? And I was shocked to find out that one of the reasons why people cheat is because of who they've become in the relationship. They need a way to basically break out of that. I've been this mother role for so long, and I don't know who I am anymore. You know, I used to be so fun, I used to be so spontaneous. I haven't had any of that in this marriage. And you think, wow, okay, so people are prepared to do that just to, like, to feel wanted, to feel desired, to have a sense of adventure in their life. And it's true. And the thing is, sometimes you don't know what you're missing until you stop and you realize you haven't had it in a long time. There are some people who absolutely love I was looking at Billie Eilish, and Billie Eilish, there's an advert which keeps coming up on my YouTube, where she said when she was younger, she used to spend hours and hours and hours creating music and editing it and spent days editing it and putting it together and putting the music video together and editing it. And she said that's where she found lots of her joy. Here's the problem today, because she's such a big artist, that creative part of her beginning is taken away from her, because she now has producers, editors, programmers. She has all of those people who do that aspect of her of her music and of her business. And so actually it's like, ah man, what she absolutely loved before is what she no longer has. You know, there are people who've been married now, and what they loved about their partner is they love the fact that their partner was really into their fitness. Here's the problem: they've been married now, and their partner no longer does fitness, and it's like, oh man, sometimes you have to go to marriage counselling, and the marriage counsellor asks you, do you still do the things that you used to do when you first got together? That you realise, this is part of the reason why you two are losing respect for each other, and there's so many arguments, because you two are never apart. You don't have anything to talk about when you come together, right? When you both had your own hobbies, when you came together, you had something to talk about. You don't have your own hobbies anymore. Right? There is nothing. Your partner, your husband, isn't going to the gym and working out and trying to get big and trying to go cycling, etc., which is what you really respected about him, that he was disciplined, and he's no longer doing that. So it's just something to think about regarding this. And I just think that a lot of people, part of the reason why they're in so much pain is they don't even realize then that they're in pain, because they've never stopped, right? Have you had a situation where you've been cut and you're bleeding, and you've never even realized that you're bleeding, and the only time that you realize you were when you realized that you were bleeding, you were like, oh damn, that really hurts. And it was just something like a small cut. But now that you've identified where the cut is, it hurts a lot, right? The small cuts are the ones that hurt the most, not the big ones. So it's just something, I don't know, maybe you disagree with me, you can have a conversation, you tell me what you think. But the last thing that I wrote down here is lifestyle. It's very, 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 very difficult to give up lifestyle. People are prepared to sacrifice pain in order to maintain a certain lifestyle, right? You see it. People don't, one of the things that I didn't know myself, and I think a lot of people don't realize, is that the more successful you become, your life moves up in parallel to that success. Meaning, if you were shopping at Primark before and now you have loads of money, you're not going to shop at Primark. You're going to shop at John Lewis, you're going to shop at Waitrose, you're going to shop at Marks and Spencer's, right? Because you can afford to do it, right? Before you couldn't, but now the options are there for you to go and shop there, right? Before, you never went on holidays that much because you didn't have the money. Now you can go on 3 or 4 holidays, and you can even fly business class if you really want to now, which means your money and your lifestyle goes up. Before, you were perfectly happy in a 2 or 3 bedroom house, but now your income has gone up. You want a 5 bedroom house. 5 bedroom house requires more money, requires more maintenance, right? I was looking at buying an Audi RS6, right? Until I started to realize to own an Audi RS6 is £600 for the tax a year. The tires alone are like £3,000 to have them changed, right? Insurance is like £3,000. Like, everything just goes up and up and up. To get the car service is £1,500. Like, everything just goes up. And the reason why I wouldn't buy it now is because I don't have the money. But I'm telling you, if I had the money, I'll get it, right? And so I think one of the reasons why so many people are in so much pain is because they refuse to give up that high life for something less. There are people who could live in a 2-bedroom house at the moment, and they'll be perfectly happy with their children, their partner, and they wouldn't have the stress of having to maintain a 5-bedroom house. But they've been used to that lifestyle, so they can't give it up. You know, recently I was studying OnlyFans, and when I was studying OnlyFans, one of the things that I was telling people is that it is going to be really, really, really difficult as a woman to give up OnlyFans and to let go of it and go back to be like a teacher. Because when you're earning £30,000 a month, how are you going to go and be a teacher and earn, and earn 20k a year or 30k a year? You're just not going to do it. It's too difficult. You've been used to buying your own bags and traveling and getting your makeup and all of this. And now you're saying to me, you're going to go down? You're just not going to go down. It's going to be too hard. It's going to be too difficult, right? And people, I think, sometimes don't realize how much influence lifestyle has, and then it stops people from living that abundant life, from operating from a space where they have time to room to breathe, room to experiment, room to explore. All right. To finish this off, one of the things that I've absolutely found fascinating is you hear people say that the best album that people usually make is their first album. Why? Because usually when you make your first album, you have loads of time to experiment, to do the songs that you want to do, to take tracks off, to like whatever. But what ends up happening is usually the second album or third album are really bad from bands because they have so much pressure from a record label to make a commercial, to produce certain tracks, to make one-hit wonders and this kind of stuff, that most people, the pressure is too much, right? They're having to maintain this certain way of being, and actually, sometimes you sometimes think, would it be better to give up all of the perks that come with the working with a record label so that you can produce the music that you actually want? You may not be as famous and go traveling around the world and make as much money, but damn, you get to produce the music that you love. You get to be creative again, right? I don't know, just something for you to think about. But that's what I wanted to share with you. Maybe you disagree with me. Comment below, send me a message. Let's have a conversation about it. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you want to support me, get to 1,000 subscribers by June. But apart from that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you soon, guys. Bye for now.